If you've ever felt stuck in your current role, this is an episode for you. Today we're going to be talking about managing up, using positions that you're currently in to make sure you're setting up your goals to move into that next role, and how you can really make a very easy pivot by just changing a few things. Welcome back to Seriously, the Claudia Project, where we talk about lifestyle, motherhood, and everything in between, motivation especially being a top priority here. And let's get right into today's episode. It'll be short and sweet, but I know that right now is the season where people are starting to look at other positions. Jobs are very fickle, and it's very hard to get new positions, if I'm honest. As someone who was for a short bit of time a career interviewer, I know that it was much easier prior, and so I hope that these tips and tricks help you feel, one, like the job that you're doing right now is actually challenging you, but also setting you up for how to move on to the next role. So let's start by talking about what managing up really means. I think a lot of times people take it out of context, and they think managing up means that you're taking on someone else's responsibilities. And the pushback I always get from people is I'm not getting paid to do that. I'm not going to do somebody else's job. That's not my responsibility. And I think for me, what's super important for both of us here to understand is that this is really about your career and not about anyone else. And so sometimes you have to go the extra step in order to do things to get what you want, right? So my definition of managing up is looking at your boss and figuring out, one, is that a position that I want? That's number one. If the goal is to move into the person above you's position, then the only way to get there is to start taking on attributes that they have. So how can you start maybe not managing someone else, but assisting and helping your peers or people who are maybe a level below you, analyst, associate level, depending on where you are. I'm in my 30s, so I'm above let's say senior manager level is where we are kind of sitting in that range. But if you're an associate, looking at analysts, and vice versa, and across the levels of your team, I guess for the purpose of this conversation, we'll say 1, 2, 3s, and 4s to keep it all even. So if you're a 4, looking at what 3s, 2s, and 1s are doing, how can you help those people out? How can you assist them? Can you go to your manager and say hey, I'd like to take on a little more responsibility and help level 1s do these parts of the tasks? Is that something you're okay with? And most managers are gonna be for sure, because part of managing up is taking solutions, not problems. So this is something that I tell the dance team all the time. If you have ideas, I'm willing to have conversations about those. What I'm not interested in is you bringing me more problems that I'm already trying to solve. So I want you to start thinking about your manager like that. So everyone can look at a situation and be oh, if it was me, I would do X, Y, Z. I would flip A and B over, and this would be so much better. But a lot of times, because you're not looking at levels 1, 2s, and 3s, because you're a 4, you're thinking at a very niche level of the problem. And so taking solutions and being solution oriented, can you fix that process that you guys have? Can you try it by yourself a few different times? And then when you have your meeting with your boss, you say hey, I noticed this was happening, so I started doing this thing over here, and I've been, documenting it, and it's working for me. Would it be okay on our next team meeting if I let everybody else know that this is happening and this is what's working? I don't know that many managers are going to be no, God forbid you help us with our processes and you don't pass it on to the team. So those are things that we can start thinking about to help out, right? Other things you can do: communicating proactively. Send updates even though they're not asking for them. Making sure that, especially women, sorry guys, there's something in my eye. Especially women, we have to do a better job about letting people know what it is we're actually doing. And at first it's going to feel like overkill. Why do I need to let this person know? They know I'm doing my job and all of these things. And yeah, in theory, they know you're doing your job, but letting them know, here are all of the things that I accomplished this week. This is where I'm at next week. These are the things I'm going to prioritize. I met with level 1 and 2 this week, and I helped them focus on X, Y, and Z. We're trying to build leadership skills. And what I find a lot of times with people that I talk to and have interviewed in the past is the biggest difference between going from level 4 to level 5 is managing other people. And if you're on a team where everyone is ICs, individual contributors, it's very hard to get that experience where your manager actually is seeing it in a way that makes them feel like you can do it, even though most people are managing people all the time. That's a side note for another conversation. But making sure you're writing it down, making sure you're going out of your way to let them know, like, yeah, I did X, Y, and Z. That way, when the conversations start happening, they're like, oh yeah, Claudia did this, this, and this. And I know it because she sends me weekly updates and she's talking about what she's accomplishing. We're not sending weekly updates just to talk about what our job is. No. We're sending the weekly updates so that they see I personally did these additional tasks that are above me, and this is how it helped other people accomplish their jobs. This one is hard for me even, and I'm always trying to think about this, and you hate just like my job's just happening so fast, and I feel like that's most jobs. And then you have your personal life. There's just like so much stuff going on all the time, but you want to try to anticipate needs that you see that are coming. And so thinking 1, 2, 3 weeks out, what do you know is going to be on the docket? How can you get in front of those things to help prioritize what's going on around you? Especially if you can prioritize those needs, like, hey, I know we're bringing more people on. I would love to take on the job of like training those people so I can get the experience. Most managers have a million things to do. And so like having that conversation prior to it happening, before they have a moment to create a solve for a problem, if you come to them with that kind of idea, at least talk through it. I think one, it'll show you two things. One, how they're actually thinking about valuing you as a person on their team. And so if they're like, I don't think so, not this time, that kind of lets you know what's happening on your team. And you can ask, okay, what are the things I need to do to make up the space for why you think I'm not the right person for this job? And two, the other thing you just learned is that your boss is not thinking about you in a way that would need to train other people. And so this is where we kind of pivot from managing up, because we've talked about the things that I think would be helpful and like just like easy steps for you to start thinking about. There's definitely like deeper dives we can go into, but these are 12 to 15 minute episodes. And, we have to make sure we're hitting all the spots for you guys to go on throughout your day. But the second part of this is it kind of shows you where you are on your team. And so at some point, I think it's important when you're looking at managing up, you're looking at your team, how can I help 1, 2, and 3, all of those things, is at some point there is a realistic conversation to have with yourself on, is it time, have I outgrown the team that I'm on with the manager that I have? Because your manager should care about your career growth. And if you are doing all of the managering up, you are helping all of the people on your team, you are going out of your way and doing projects that are not necessarily in your job description, you are already going to all the conferences and you're doing all of the things, you're doing all of the things that need to be done in order to get to level 5, then it might be a situation where like maybe the company that you're at does not have the space for any type of promotion up. And then also maybe the team doesn't value you the way that you think that they do. And that's an important conversation for you to have with yourself. I think it's super important to know that I think there's nothing wrong with being an individual contributor, staying at a company for 20 years, kind of riding the wave, if that's what you want to do. But if your priority is to continue to grow, is to lead a team, is to move to level 6, 7, and 8, and you've been in your current position for, say, 4 going on 5 years, looking at the possibility of 6, and you don't see a trajectory, even though you're doing all of those managing up steps, then maybe it's time to have a more candid conversation with your manager. I think that's definitely step 1. People are definitely leaving jobs without talking to their bosses about what they want, how they see their careers, and that's not necessarily, I don't want to say fair. You don't have to go in there and be like, hey man, I'm trying to make $100 million and like, how am I going to do that here? That's not what I'm saying. But I do think career wise, you should be having honest conversations about what your goals are, what you need to do to get there. And then if they don't have great things to say, or like you've gone through a year of y'all talking about you being great, but nothing is coming from it, then it's like time, right? But you need to be very careful when you start looking at other jobs, because lots of people will say lots of things that you want to hear, but making sure that as you think about leaving the company that you're with to go somewhere else, that you're actually getting what you need from that new position and not just moving from a mess where you are to a mess somewhere else, right? So that's a big piece. I say all of that to say I don't want to spend a lot of time on that last point, but I do think that one, managing up is the most important part of the job. And anytime I hear people tell me stuff like, well, I'm not getting paid for that, so I'm not going to do it, those are people that I know are going to end up boxing themselves in, because everyone once you get past levels 1 through 4, everyone is doing someone else's job all the time, because it's about the team and it's about the collective and it's about us moving this ship forward. And so taking that vocabulary out of your language is like super important. Like, that's not my job should come out if you're trying to get to 4, 5, 6, 700 million dollars. But making sure if you're going to be doing that you're not doing it for terribly long without being compensated, but also like looking at other positions and other jobs and making sure that you're aligned correctly to keep moving forward. As you think about all of this, it's important for you, whether you're sending it to your managers or not, to learn cross-functional skills, because it's always going to be important, and pivoting is the most important thing that happens in our lifetime. Keeping your receipts, tracking your wins, your KPIs, and your achievements. 1, for your resume. 2, for your like mental health, because you need to know that you're actually accomplishing things every single day. Sometimes I show up to work and I'm like, I don't feel like I did anything today, and all I did was work all day long. And so making sure that you can keep track of those things, super important. And then lastly, building internal allies. Have people you actually can talk to, maybe like at work, at least one person that you trust who is in a like strong, high position where you can have like a candid conversation just about what your goals are, what you want to do. Here are the things I am doing now. How can I improve? How can I get better? That way, when it comes time to have those conversations, you have someone you can reach out to. And having peers are great, but those people cannot help you like with your career growth the way that you need. So you need to be looking for, if you're a level 4, maybe like a level 7 or a level 8 on another team somewhere else that you have a coffee chat with once a month, just to check in, see how they're doing, see how you're doing, talk about your goals, your career, like what you should do next, and start building that relationship early before you need something, so that when the time comes, they can give you actual real advice about work. Lastly, always keep your current job as like, it is a stepping stone to your next job. And so every day you show up, I mean, it's not going to be great every day. Sometimes I show up, I don't want to do anything. I've had a really hard time focusing. We've had some like stuff going on in the office, and so it's just been more difficult than it is other days. But it's still thinking about like, everything I'm doing in this job is preparing me for the next. And so how can I make sure that I'm using it the right way? And once you realize that this isn't necessarily the job for your next job, then it's time to start figuring out how to pivot even faster than that. That way you're not wasting your time just like da-da-da-da-da, you know what I mean? That doesn't make any sense. Anyway, I hope that this episode was helpful. I hope that it helps you make a mindset shift. Managing up is so important. It's so important to be thinking ahead and using the job that you have for the job that you want, and shifting your mindset around what you can do in the position that you're in to be your best self for that level 5 that you're going to, or from a level 1 to a level 2, which is super important too. Make sure that you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Share with your friends. We are here Monday through Friday, always. And we'll see you in the next one. Seriously, this is Claudia. Bye, guys.